Kiran, when you take a look at the pharmaceutical industry, women account for about 65% of the workforce. But when you take a look at the leadership, that's possibly one woman leading the top 10 pharma companies. Why do you think that is so?
Well, Haslinda, just like in every sector, I think we need to populate the leadership space with a lot more women. And I think once you start filling up the funnel, we don't want the funnel to be sort of gradually depleting that 65% that you talked about. So we really need to get more women at the leadership role, and that can only happen if you keep promoting those people at the bottom of the cadre in a more sort of fair way. Because I think what is happening is that women often fall off as they sort of progress the leadership ladder on various accounts. One is because of the fact that there is a natural gender bias when it comes to promotion. And, women obviously also have it stacked against them because of things like maternity leave and things like that. So I think the break in service often affects women in a very unfair way.
What are you doing on your part to inspire a new generation of women in pharmaceutical and ensuring that there is a pipeline?
Very good question, Haslinda. And I feel that, as a woman leader, I believe that you have to have very progressive and structured diversity, gender diversity policies, where you almost have to, force people into ensuring that a certain percentage of women are in leadership positions. And I'm sure if you look hard enough, you can do that. It's very convenient to select a more experienced man than a woman who may not be that experienced but has a better potential. So I always tell people, look for the potential, not just performance. So if you focus on performance, you may not get a woman who can make the cut. But when you focus on potential, I think there are many women who can, get to that leadership level.
Are you seeing a lot of change within the big pharma companies?
What gives me hope is when I look at the biotech sector, when I look at the startup sector in many parts of the world, I think women are already becoming founders and co-founders in a much bigger way than before. So that hopefully will change the whole dynamics of women in biopharma as such. But right now we're looking about the big pharma, the top 10, and that's been always a male bastion. So for women to break into that, Emma Walmsley is one of those people who actually broke into that. But apart from that, there are very few and far between, but I expect more women to come into the fray.
Kiran, the pharmaceutical industry has been in focus because of the pandemic and the search for a vaccine. I want to take a look at the situation in India. Is there concern we could see a second wave of virus cases now that we're seeing that second wave already in the US as well as Europe? How well placed is India to contain the situation?
If you had asked me this question a month ago, I would have given you a different response. But today I'm much more hopeful because, the number of cases per day have halved. The number of active cases are way below, a million. Because as you know, we are almost approaching 8 million, but the number of active cases are below 800,000, which is a very good sign. And then the fatality rate has drastically come down over the last few weeks. So I think that also gives me some hope that we are somehow treating patients better, we are controlling the disease better, and we are in a better place than where we were a month ago. So hopefully we won't see the kind of second waves that Europe and US are seeing.
And also the issue of vaccine. I think more and more countries are lining up to secure their own stock of vaccine once we find one. And that's led to the idea of vaccine nationalism. You have been saying that, it shouldn't come down to that. But in the end, Kiran, isn't it true that the richer countries will end up having access to these vaccines first?
So there are two ways of preventing this, because as you know, we are close to getting vaccine approvals in the next few months. And as we know, the first 3 or 4 vaccines are the Moderna, the Pfizer, the AstraZeneca, and the J&J vaccines, and followed by Novavax and others. Now, when you look at the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines, these require ultra cold chains of -80, and these will not be deployed in the lower and middle income countries for sure. So what we are really relying on are the J&J and the AstraZeneca vaccines to begin with, and then others as we go along. India itself is also developing its own vaccines. So what I expect is that between COVAX and the Indian manufacturers who have committed to supply for LMIC countries, I think we will be able to make sure that the poorer countries or the developing world has access to vaccines, and it'll not be the prerogative of only the wealthy and the rich countries.